A moment ago, you said there are some ethical ways to use AI. What are those ways?
Okay. So, um, kind of more recent policies and guidelines that are coming out, and this is because journals are having to deal with this as well. Academic
Right.
journals, they're having to come up with policy on the fly. How do we handle this? And so a lot of folks are just saying, kind of the blanket thing is to provide a declaration of how you used AI, to what
Okay.
extent it was used, how it was used. Um, and so, if you're following kind of the policy, then that's an ethical use of it, right? And it's a good way to use it. Um, there are some productivity ways to use it
Sure.
in a useful way. Um, and the and so, for instance, we've had students that you know Grammarly's not so much generative AI, but it's a AI tool that
Yeah.
can check, their grammar, can check,
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a couple generations past, your spell check and the,
Sure.
onboard tools for Microsoft Word. We're going to highlight what you got wrong and, what you misspelled and where you need punctuation and,
Hmm.
things like that. And so using, tools like Grammarly to better their writing, not write for them, but to improve, help them
Sure.
find, where they're using passive voice, help them find, some of these grammatical errors. I think that's a good ethical use of it. Instructionally, ways that we've used it, um, is on an assignment. Like I had a student that was doing a qualitative study, and when you're doing qualitative research, basically you're taking transcripts from interviews a lot of
Sure.
times, and you're trying to code. You're looking for patterns in how people responded. And, there's guidelines again for whatever type of coding you're doing, and you're creating themes from all these codes. And unlike mathematics, there's a lot of, you know, kind of flowy, amorphous, you know, descriptions that can come out of
Sure.
qualitative research, right? It's not just 2 + 2 = 4.
It's not so cut and dry.
That's exactly right. I mean, there can be some ambiguity and vagueness in some of the processes. And so I've had students that said, okay, try your hand at coding this data. Do that. All right. Now then, after you've coded it, have ChatGPT or Copilot is what we use, at Lamar. Put your transcript in and have it do the kind of coding you're doing, axial coding,
Uh-huh.
and then compare what AI did with what you did, and then do a little compare and contrast. I've had uh, students, and this was early on when it first kind of became public. But I had a student that was working on an interview protocol, and I said, try your interview with AI, see how it works. So they would type in their questions and kind of see what kind of responses that they would get.
Huh.
And actually, er, one of my first students that I did this with, not only did I have them use AI to practice the interview, but then they did the whole analysis piece as well with that
Huh.
transcript. So it's got some really, I mean, it's somewhat dependent on the instructor and their creativity, but there are some good ways to use it ethically and pedagogically that can enhance learning, or at least help support or facilitate it.